Babajide Gunso joins us now. Thank you for coming on again today. Whoa. Well, there's been several polls about this one, and then they talk about that margin of error. So it makes it a little tighter. I mean, some think it's a little tougher to predict. But yes, we know that there's one latest poll now which shows 45, 44. But I don't know which ones you've been looking at. What did you see?
We've seen a lot of polls with different results, and it's not because any of those polls are fraudulent. It's because the approach to polling is very different. So some of those polls are done using telephone interviews, some are done using actual questionnaires, and some are done by calling landlines. Well, here's what makes tomorrow's interesting very, very different. It's not just between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. It's between a candidate that says, and his mantra is, make America great again. Now, here's what the polls say about that candidate that says, make America great again, Donald Trump. They describe him with one word, and that is unbelievable. Now, the second candidate comes with a slogan that says, stronger together, Hillary Clinton. Now, the polls describe her using one word as well, unreliable. So this is an election between people to choose between someone who is said to be unbelievable, Donald Trump, and another person who is said to be unreliable, Hillary Clinton. But for Nigeria, what's more important is not just the election results. It's what are the implications of a Donald Trump victory for the country? And there are two major implications. What are these implications? The first is Donald Trump has taken a clear position on immigration. Now, he's talked severally about making Americans his priority and also made strong comments about deportation. And here's why this is very important. So the total capital flows that come in around the world into Nigeria, remittances into Nigeria, is approximately $20 billion. Now that has been consistent for about 5 years. The reason why remittances are very important is because it assists the central bank, for instance, to minimize the current challenges it has with dollars. So without remittances, our exchange rate wouldn't even be where it is today. It will be worse. A lot of this capital flows, the $20 billion, a lot of it comes from the United States.
Are they likely to stop?
Now, here's what it means. Now, a lot of it comes not just from legal migrant Nigerian workers in the United States. Some of this monies come from illegal migrant workers. So if you go by Donald Trump's suggested policy of being very tough on immigrants, it simply means that we potentially might see a lot of illegal migrant Nigerian workers that are trying to make a living.
But the illegal ones they far outweigh the percentage of quote unquote the legal workers that don't they?
Exactly. So that's what it seems. So it potentially means a Donald Trump victory could reduce the remittances that comes from the United States into Nigeria and potentially have negative impacts on the Naira. Now, the second thing Donald Trump has stood for is he's spoken very clearly about radical Islamic terrorism. In particular, he's always mentioned Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, in his campaign. He's talked about Saudi Arabia being a haven for terrorists. So it simply means a Donald Trump victory will be anti-Saudi Arabia when it comes to trade decisions. Now look at it this way. If Donald Trump is anti-Saudi Arabia and Nigeria is pro-Saudi Arabia because of our association with OPEC, it simply means there's a potential for significant volatility in oil prices. And when there's significant volatility in oil prices, it makes it tough for countries like ours that are highly dependent on revenue to plan. And once we can plan effectively, it often leads to a lot of challenges.
Did any of the poll you looked at suggest that he just may pull off a Brexit-style upset?
Yes, and that is possible. We'll have to look at the way Americans vote. So one is, you don't just win the popular vote, you need to also win the Electoral College. And what Donald Trump has done is looked at the last results in the United States in 2012 and looked at how people voted. And those are part of the reasons why we even called on INEC to give us more information about voting patterns. So here's what Donald Trump has done. How many people voted in the last US elections in 2012? 132.9 million. How many were Asians? Only 3%. How many were Hispanics? Only 10%. How many